Welcome everybody back to the Real Play Podcast. This is Ciera.
Hi, it's Ebony.
And today we have Miss Phyllis, the fibroid queen. Hey girl.
Hey.
How are you today?
I am feeling so grateful. The sun was out today. I'm feeling good. I'm here with you two beautiful ladies. Life is good.
Thank you. The sun is out here too today, and it was like a great sight because it's been cloudy and misting and raining. So the sun is out. Spring officially starts tomorrow.
Yes.
Can't wait. Warm weather.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, we have Miss Phyllis, like I said, the fibroid queen on here today because we're going to talk about something that you may or may not even know anything about. And as an African-American woman, it's something that we're affected way more than any other races, and that's fibroids. So before we jump into the topic, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's fibroid queen, who is she, and how you got into it?
Yeah, I love it. Great questions. So as you graciously introduced me, my name is Phyllis. I'm the founder of Fibroid Queen, and I'm a fitness coach as well as a yoga coach and a registered nurse. And I'm currently in school to become a functional nutritionist. So I am one that is looking to empower and coach women on how to think, how to eat, and how to move to prevent fibroids, to live their best mindfully. And this journey started a couple years ago with where I'm at as far as helping other women. But this goes back to years ago when I was originally diagnosed with fibroids at the age of 25. But actually before that, around 8 years old, I witnessed my mom going through the pain and suffering with uterine fibroids. So I'll kind of touch in on that, on my story, but pretty much Fibroid Queen is an affirmation. I had a lot of pushback when I decided to use that as my business name, but it's an affirmation for me to rise above, be relentless, persevere, and to continue to treat myself like a queen, and not let fibroids, interfere with my quality of life. So that name, I hear it, it's a reminder for me. So that's kind of how Fibroid Queen originated. And the name, as far as fibroids and what it is non-cancerous. So non-cancerous masses that can form in and or around the uterus. And believe it or not, up to 20% of women will have symptoms. It's a very low number, but it's very prominent in, especially like you said, melanated women. And just the name fibroids really stuck with me as I watched my mom go through this. And based on my experience as a child and seeing her go through this, I felt like she was misinformed. I felt like she did not know much about her diagnosis, and she kind of just did whatever the doctor told her to do. So, here I am, 20 something years later, now the fibroid queen, and I'm looking to help millions of women with this blueprint I created to not only eliminate a fibroid, but eliminate a lot of my symptoms, and be able to help women use these resources to live their best and and have a good quality of life. So that's kind of a snippet about me and what I do.
Well, I love that. I love the name and what the name means. I know I've been following you for probably over a year. I know that, like maybe 2 years. I don't even know how you came on as like someone I may know. I don't know, but like I see you like doing the workouts and having the lives with different people, especially the one on pelvic floor the other day. I watched that last night and I was like, the doctor you had on, she was really young, and I love to see that she was young. And then she looked like me, and she's talking about something that we don't talk about, like the pelvic floor muscles and how far they go forward and back. Like, who knows all of that? But I really love your page. It's very informational, it's inspirational. And we just want to, before we start asking questions, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thank you for using your platform to spread messages like this is so needed. And thank you again for doing this.
You're welcome. Ebony, did you have something you wanted to start with?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, Ciera already said thank you. One of the things we wanted to do when we did decide to do a podcast was to spread messages like this, and we also found that it resonates a lot with our listeners as well. And so you talked a lot about your mom having fibroids, and also you finding out that you had them. Did you check because your mom had it, or was there other signs that made you go to the doctor? And what was that experience like?
Very good question. So my mom ended up getting a partial hysterectomy, and being raised in an African household, when it came to health issues, it was just nothing. It was something that was just not talked about, was frowned upon. So she really kept private with this. That left off with that. And once I got into nursing school, that experience came back to me as I sat down getting ready to get a Pap Smear. So I was getting a womb wellness checkup and about to get a Pap Smear. And I had just had a recollection of that experience. And then, you know, being in nursing school, I may have learned a little bit of something, and I put two and two together. And I just asked the doctor for an ultrasound. Now, mind you, I didn't really know what fibroids were at the time, but I just knew my mom had it, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have it. Wow. And yeah, so the doctor questioned me, was like, why would you want an ultrasound? And I told her just that, my mom had it. And despite I had the bloating, these are the 4 triggers that usually there's something wrong. It's not limited to these 4, but if you're experiencing bloating, if you're having heavy cycles, pain, and low energy, that's a sign of a hormonal imbalance or something going on. So I had all that, and the doctor ended up doing it, and the results came back, and I had a quarter-size fibroid on my uterus at the time. So, I mean, we as women, we have an intuition. It could be tapped in if we are aware. And I guess that moment I was to figure out that there was something just not right with my body. So the doctor told me to monitor it. I'm following the doctor's advice. And looking back, I feel like that was not a proactive, I feel like that advice was not proactive because something that's going on in my lifestyle, in my thoughts, in my environment is causing dysfunction in my body for these fibroids to appear to begin with. And to go back to the same lifestyle, it's not going to help the situation. And it didn't. So years later, I ended up graduating nursing school. It was the hardest part of my life, where stress was a big thing. And I feel like the fibroids really fueled at that time. So there are things that cause our bodies to not act as it should. And one of them is stress. So I graduated nursing school 30 pounds heavier. So I had high cholesterol in my 20s. And those little factors do not help the fibroids, to just feed it more and more, as fibroids fuel off of estrogen dominance. We as women have a certain amount of estrogen in our body, but with the lifestyle, environment, thoughts, just different factors that come in, it leaves us vulnerable for estrogen to be produced or not eliminated and remain in excess in our bodies. And that causes a dysfunction. So knowing that fibroids is fed mainly by estrogen dominance, I was doing all of that stuff until I was like, I don't want to be on cholesterol medication, because that's what the doctor told me. I was like, I got to do something. So I ended up joining a gym, and I ran into a bodybuilding coach. And long story short, she saw something in me that I didn't know I had. She thought I should be on stage. And I'm like, yeah, right. Look at me. Like, are you kidding? And I thought about it. I was like, I don't want to be on any medication. So I need to do something. I need to join a program. I need to be a part of a group with other women so I can get that support and motivation. So you ladies that are listening right now, and you're dealing with fibroids or you need support on your journey, it's going to be so key to really get in this environment and join a group, get support, get a coach, someone that you can resonate with, that can help you enhance your journey to whatever your life destines you to be, and not be bothered by fibroids. So what I did is I joined her program, and then I lost the weight. I felt way better. I looked amazing, and I was like, I'm ready to compete on stage. So I won my first show, and then the momentum just increased. And then after 2 years of doing fitness modeling, I decided to become a personal trainer. And I wanted to help other women be able to, actually women and men I was training at the time, to reach their goals. So I did that. So we as women, we want to do everything and everybody, right? We want to help everybody, we want to do everything. So I was working as a nurse full time. I was training people, and then I needed to train myself. So all of that, lack of sleep, just flight mode the whole time. And I was just going in that speed where a lot of the things that I was doing, it was just really bothering my just my whole mood, my energy. So what I had to do was so I ended up after 8 years of competing, I stopped competing because the world became toxic. I was judged on stage by how I look, and your booty's too big, you got to do this. And that started to fuel my emotions. And sometimes we as women, at least for me, in the past, being raised and not really expressing myself like that, I think it really affected me later in adulthood, where I just kept everything in. I was like, I got it, I'm good, right? You don't talk about it. So all of that boiled up. So I left the bodybuilding world, and I ended up getting in a relationship with a guy because I felt lack. I felt like I needed to replace what I was not feeling. And that was the wrong thing to do. So that relationship was toxic, and it was just emotionally draining, where I ended up leaving that relationship and then just eating whatever, just gained the weight back, didn't care. And it wasn't until I went out with my girlfriends, right, that feminine energy started to connect things. So I went out with my girlfriends, and we took a picture, and I was about to post a picture, but this is when everything came together. When I looked at my abdomen, I'm like, dang, it looks like I'm pregnant. And I was like, it can't be the fibroids that I forgot about 8 years ago, right? It can't be that. So I was in denial. I didn't want to believe that it was the fibroids. So I ended up getting out of that and having the courage to make an appointment to see the doctor and get another ultrasound. And that quarter-sized fibroid ended up being 4 fibroids, and the largest one almost 8 centimeters. So
wow. So you had the whole time, and then you got a few more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do want to ask a quick question. So earlier when you were talking about, you asked your doctor for an ultrasound, right? And we talk about on this podcast all the time being your best advocate for, everything pretty much. But did your doctor give you like any pushback? Because I know sometimes when we go in and we're like, I want this, so like, you don't need that.
Right. I would say the doctor was not like, yeah, sure, let's do that. She questioned me of why I wanted an ultrasound, which, is fine. And this is especially it being back then. But back to what you're saying, at least 80% of my clients say they always get pushback.
Mm.
And I think things have changed now where insurance is a little bit more strict than it was before, but I do feel like that is a huge issue where we're not taking seriously. And it's more of waiting till, there's a symptom versus being proactive about it. So absolutely, I do feel you on that one. Yes.
I feel like I need to go to the doctor and ask for one now because I've never been diagnosed with a fibroid.
Oh,
But I do know a friend who has one, and she didn't even know she had them until she was pregnant.
okay.
And when she was pregnant, I guess, they're poking and prodding on everything, the whole process. And they're like, yeah, your fibroid's doing fine. And she's like, my what? So she had no symptoms. She said she had a little bit of symptoms as far as like, heavy bleeding and a lot of cramps and stuff like that. But she never equated it to anything except for that's what her normal body does.
Mm-hmm.
So she never thought to get anything tested until they told her. So I'm like, oh, I might need to go ahead and just see, just to know.
Right, right.
And I have not talked to my mom like, hey, mom, do you have fibroids or did grandma? Like, it's not like a conversation that you
Right.
really have. I guess I could technically call her right now and ask her, but it's still kind of weird. Even if she didn't, that doesn't mean that I'm not, because
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it could be almost hereditary at sometimes, but at the same time, it has to start somewhere. So, I thought it was really interesting that you said only 20% of
Yeah.
women have symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So we could be walking around here now and have no
No
idea.
idea.
So
Yeah.
with that being said, what are some ways that, whether we know it or not, that we have it, that we can kind of reduce the size, or I'm assuming the only way that you can get rid of them, or one that's already growing, is to have it removed. But is there a way to make it smaller? Are there things you can do, eat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that the regimen or blueprint I created, which is the Queen Holistic Lifestyle Regimen, because there is a holistic lifestyle regimen that you can do, but a progressive one that's really going to address the hormonal imbalance comprehensively. And that's what I created using the background of being a nurse and incorporating more of our mindset to really manifest different things that we want to happen. Because I would say, 90% of us live in the negative. We live in the past. We live in our emotions, which
Mm,
are recollections of the past,
mm,
versus moving, living in the present and, manifesting the future. So that's why what I do is I really help women really prime their mindset. So my regimen consists of 6 levels to reach holistic success. And I feel like doing that can really provide a lot of relief. It can really, again, baseline level, get to the hormonal imbalance, and also start to help you personal develop and feel better. So um, it consists of fitness, yoga, and nutrition. Okay.
okay.
So you are moving intentionally with Womb Wellness workouts. At the same time, you're taking in foods that are low in inflammation, sugar, and estrogen. And then last, you are priming your thoughts. So all of that together can really go far as addressing the estrogen dominance, because my philosophy is there are 4 non-direct causes of estrogen dominance, based on what I've seen, my experience, my clients.
Mhm.
And the 4 of them is, number 1, toxins. So that can be an environment, that can be your thoughts, it can be what you're putting on your skin.
Mhm.
And then second is trauma. Okay. And that can be emotional trauma, physical trauma, things that low vibrational energy that has been left in you that has not been released. It collects in the womb. Okay.
Mm.
And then low energy. So for instance, a lot of the food we're eating has no life to it, especially when you microwave it, it's processed. Unfortunately, meat, which is something that a lot of people eat, is low vibrational food. You know, it does a lot of good things as far as protein and all that, but as far as options, it doesn't help when it comes to estrogen dominance. Okay. And then last one is high stress. So our minds, you know, our state of mind really dictate what our body feels. So if you are constantly stressed out, your body really doesn't know that you are just stressed out. It actually thinks that you're in a hazardous environment, that you need to, you know, stay clear and be ready to escape. You know, like you're in a war zone. So when you're constantly in that state of mind, stressed out, your body is always trying to, you know, get ready to, you know, for you to duck and cover. So it running in that mode constantly produces dysfunction. And then that dysfunction starts to affect the way our cells behave. And when your cells don't act right, they mutate. So they form copies of itself and they start to cluster. And that can, and that cluster can, sorry, this thing, oh my God.
Can turn into the cancerous
Yeah.
fibroid, the non-cancerous fibroid, right?
Yeah.
Non-cancerous.
So, yeah. So if they cluster, they can turn into, you know, fibroids, like you said. Yes. So the goal is to reverse all that and to address those factors, those 4 factors. And that's what my program does through getting on and going through coaching calls, getting set on a womb wellness workout regimen, to getting recipes that help with your healing process, and being surrounded with other women, just like yourself, to get that accountability and sisterhood to really, you know, reach womb success. So that's kind of what my program consists of. And I feel, to answer your question, that that is the preventative way of in regards to the progression of fibroids, if you already have them, or it runs in your family, a way to prevent it, or, you know, just to help with just symptom relief. It goes a long way versus the standard treatment where it's like just removing the symptom. Like, you know, you think about a tree. So the fibroids are the branches. So if you simply just cut the branches, it can still grow again. But if you got to change the soil, and the soil is estrogen dominance. So once you change the soil, then it limits the opportunity for them to regrow. And I'm a testimony of that. I've not had, I mean, mind you, my fibroids are not small, but being able to eliminate one and 90% of my symptoms being eliminated, you know, knowing that it's still there, but it's, I would say, a different type of fibroid, because it's not affecting me. It's not affecting my quality of life. And I'm actually feeling better with, you know, having that fibroid there versus when I did not have fibroids at all. I mean, just saying. But I say all this to say this, that the holistic, you know, Elisa Queen Foundation works. If you are struggling with this and you need that support, you know, find those groups that you can resonate with, find those women. And if there's no access to that, get with someone you trust that you can talk to about the struggles you're going through. And then schedule some time with your doctor, bring your notebook and a pen to write down questions, and let your doctor know to explain what other options there are for you, because, you know, this option may not be available for everyone, but either way you go, you definitely want to have this foundation, because you go get the surgery or procedure, you want to still address the hormonal imbalance. And that's something that's not done just simply by removing it. So want to let women know that you may not be at this place right now, but make an informed decision and see what's best for you, especially for those that want to have kids. Time is of essence, and they need to get that removed because it may be in the way of the growing fetus, and that is definitely something you have to think about. So at the end of the day, you need to look at your needs, your wants, write it down, address that with your doctor, and also know that you're a unique being. You're very unique, and you should be treated not like the next woman or this woman, because all your fibroids are different. And the standard approach is just the standard approach, and it doesn't work for everybody. And that's what we're not seeing.
So there's a couple of things that you said that I really like. One, you talked about stress, and I think, it's just like we might say we're stressed out or not even acknowledge that we are stressed, but knowing that stress kills, and it's a silent killer, and stress can manifest in our body so many different ways. So I like that you pointed that out. And I also like that you talked about trauma in the body. I read a lot. I'm reading this book, and you probably heard of it. It's called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks a lot about trauma. And a lot of books that I've been reading like that have yoga and meditation. It talks a lot about calming the mind and moving the body. Because this trauma, like you said, is like stuck, and it could be a small amount of trauma, it could be a large amount of trauma, but you have to get it out and start moving. And mental is a big component of a lot of diseases and things. So I like that you incorporate all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you really emphasize that, because that is something that is not talked about enough. It's not, in the research of fibroids, you don't see much about emotions and trauma. And you think about it, it's like, why is there no cure? Because evidence-based practice does not include that holistic component. And that's what we're missing, but that drives our hormonal imbalance as well. So, yeah.
And I like the holistic route that you're going. Like, you didn't say in any time, take these pills or, get this cut out. You were like, we're going to eat right. We're going to work out. We're going to talk. We're going to calm our mind, move our bodies. So I really like that you, as a nurse, like, you're not saying go to this drug or, anything that chemically would change your body. So I really appreciate that part of your process.
I do have a question on that, though. Do you recommend like maybe vitamin D or and I also want to ask you if you've heard of the supplement called DIM?
Yeah.
I saw someone post it, but I didn't know much about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny, on Clubhouse, we were just talking about DIM, but yeah, there is supplements that I do provide in my program, as well as herbal teas. I do have a herbalist that also partners with me on consultations with our women to make sure they are set up right when they do join the program on what best supplements for them to take. Because the thing is, what's out there sometimes may not be for you. And I had a woman who was taking the wrong herbs, where she was actually feeding her fibroids versus trying to do the opposite. So it's very important that if you want to start taking herbs, which are natural, which is the best way to go, because the liver needs to be cleaned out, and potent herbs can be very beneficial. So you would get that from like a herbalist. So start taking herbs to detox the body, and then also start drinking teas that help with healing and cleansing. And what she does is she does custom blends for our women based on their symptoms. So if they have heavy cycles, then she's going to add this herb versus that herb and all that stuff. So when it comes to supplements, vitamin D, man, ladies, I think it's not talked about enough. I think vitamin D, and Dr. Littman was one of the doctors that I also do a lot of talks with, but he was saying how it could be a preventative measure. And I feel like it's a little bit more than that. Just the research that it shows And it really reflects on how this is common. This condition is common in melanated women, but yet we have darker skin. Yet it's, if we're not out there in the sun like that, we can be missing out on that vitamin D, especially if it's not in our diet. So I feel like vitamin D is huge. If there's any supplement that you want to take, you want to make sure your vitamin D levels is on point. You want to make sure your hemoglobin levels are on point. And hemoglobin reflects the energy, so and iron in regards to heavy cycles. So making sure you're taking iron supplements, preferably liquid, at least for me, because that can eliminate the constipation and the other stuff that can come with taking pills. And also, when you take your iron, you want to pair it up with a vitamin C, so it's more absorbed. But I say all this to say this, though, you want to make sure your baseline gut is where it needs to be, because if your gut is not, absorbing the foods, if you got an unhealthy gut, it's not going to really help anything you do. So that's why I have women, when they start with me, they get a detox. And then that way they build on healthier foods, supplements, and your body is able to take that in more better. So it's like a reset. So yes, vitamin D, so important.
It's funny. I was doing research. This is just me as a person. And I was like, let me check my vitamin D levels. I never thought to do that. So I messaged my doctor and she was like, oh, everybody's vitamin D level is low. And I was like, but I want mine checked. And so we got it checked and mine was super low. And I got put on a regimen of vitamin D. And then we checked it I think 3 months later, and it was still low. And so she put me on another one. I'm not even finished my regimen now. And so we're going to check it again after I'm done. But if I would have listened to her, I just been walking around with low vitamin D and about to fall out somewhere probably.
Ebony, again, this is why I do what I do. Oh my gosh. Being your own self-advocate. Again, if you did not say anything, you'd be walking around. And the thing is, low vitamin D really affects our body to an extent that we don't believe. I mean, when you think about just different conditions like breast cancer, it really affects the way our cells respond to each other. And it also affects our energy levels. I mean, you're just not feeling yourself. And it can be simply because of your vitamin D levels and your diet. So not getting it through your diet. So I'm so glad you spoke up.
Yeah.
Gotta be your own self-advocate.
Yes. And I don't eat meat. Sometimes I eat seafood, but it's like I have to go to someone else's house and that's all I have to eat it. But even like B12, I have to make sure that I take that or I'm like, I have no energy. And so that's what also prompted me to research vitamin D, because my energy levels it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit about DIM too?
Oh yeah, DIM. So DIM is a supplement that can metabolize the estrogen a little bit better, but it does go back to where your digestive health is, to make sure it gets absorbed, one. And secondly, it may not work for everybody, especially if you have liver concerns, fatty liver, or your liver is just very sluggish. You want to get those things checked before you just start taking supplements like DIM. But for the most part, like a baseline, DIM is something that can be beneficial for women to get some balance in their levels. Yeah.
I'm just curious because I saw things about it. I'm like, maybe should I? But I don't like to take stuff just off a whim and then you mess up your whole body.
Everything.
And you're trying to get it back. Yeah.
Ebony, do you have an estrogen imbalance?
I don't think so. I don't think I've had it checked.
Okay. Yeah, I would get checked first. And
I'm just always curious about stuff.
Yeah. I would definitely get checked to see if you have anything going on. That way, it may be, for you, just getting your supplements in. It may not be that supplement. So yeah.
I feel like I need to get a hormone test and get a fibroid ultrasound, because I just need to check everything, especially as I'm getting older. So yeah.
It's important, definitely.
There's no wellness check. Like when you go to the doctor,
They ain't looking for that.
They're not like, oh, here's a list of things that we need to check this year. Unless you bring it up. I mean, they look at basic stuff.
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah, unless there's a problem or a symptom, that's when it's brought up. And that's sometimes when it's a little too late. And, you know, that's not preventative. The preventative approach is really to check it. So that's where we come in and having to, you know, have that support and that self-advocacy to do that. So yeah, it's crazy.
You know what's funny? I just thought about I might need to go get it checked for real because maybe like 6-7 years ago I went and I got a Pap smear and they took a piece and it came back abnormal, right? Scared the crap out of me. I never went back until like a couple of years later. But when I went back, I had them now, you know, now they have you go every 5 years or 3 years based or whenever you need to. So when I went back, I had them check and it came back normal. And so part of me is like, was that a glitch? Did something else happen? Should I have to get something else checked? But still scary.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Seeing abnormal would be scary.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully you're gonna get that checked again just to make sure.
No, I got it checked again recently, maybe like last year.
Okay.
So it's been 2 times since the abnormal.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, more than 2, but yeah.
Okay.
All right. We're like, okay. So I know that you have like a client coming up and you're going to have to run soon. But my question would be, so say someone like me doesn't have fibroids, but I want to be a part of your community. I want to learn, you know, the preventative measures just to make sure that I don't end up having them later on or being able to reduce whatever I do have that I don't know about. So what does a client get from you if they're just wanting to be a part of your community? Is that available or do you really just kind of focus on the ones that really need your help?
Yeah, though I do all, you know, and again, so my goal is to prevent, right? So, you know, like, you know, those are really the emphasis is to prevent this from happening to begin with. So if you are looking to just take this preventative approach, I have 3 packages that I offer, and the womb challenge would be definitely for you. It's a way to be introduced on how to eat, how to move, and how to think. So that's like my baseline package, and as well as joining my Facebook community group of other women that are just like yourself trying to live their best. Also, I do clubhouse talks. I do, you know, check out my Instagram at Fibroid Queen. But there's always going to be something, I feel, and the community that I'm building is where women at any stage of their life, you know, whether it be teenage, pregnancy, postpartum, you know, when they reach menopause, they're going to be able to use this as a resource, whether they're looking to, you know, get on a detox to jumpstart their liver, whether they're looking to do a challenge. But this is something you always want to be, you know, you want to include in your regimen. That's the thing that we're not doing. We're just doing diet and exercise, and that's it. I've been in that world, in the bodybuilding world. It's not enough. My fibroids still grew, and I had top shape. So it just tells you that it's a whole mind, body, soul thing, that you want to definitely be in an environment with other women that can help facilitate that healing throughout the rest of your life. This is something that I feel like we can't just take a break from. So for those that are looking to prevent, join my womb challenge and just to get an introduction and use those tools for thereon to be more aware of ways to avoid the hormonal imbalance. Now, these are ways that are powerful, but if you're still doing the stressful things, if you're still drinking alcohol, you know, a little bit more than moderately, if you're doing the other things, you know, this is not going to be as beneficial. So you really got to weigh your options, say, you know what, this needs to be a lifestyle. So for anyone that's looking to prevent, who doesn't have fibroids, I have quite a few women that have rheumatoid arthritis, I have women that have PCOS, endometriosis. But you know what, the common link between all those conditions is this hormonal and inflammation. So that's what my program covers. So yes, I really service to all women, really.
Oh, I feel like part of the community already. And I just love how you keep, every time you say womb challenge, or every time you say womb, it just gives me like this warm and fuzzy, like, because we, as a woman, it's important that we have wombs. And I don't know, just when you say it, it's just really, just smile. I don't know if you noticed it, but every time you said womb, I was like, I don't know. I'm just like that. But yeah, I think that this has been very, very informative.
I got one last question.
Oh, I had one too. I wasn't.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
My question, because you were talking about people from, the teenage years to what's the post-menopausal. What range do you see the majority of your clients?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Average woman see a fibroid growing?
Oh, okay. So that number has definitely went down. It used to be like 35 to 50, right? But nowadays, it's like I have consultations for women as young as 19, 20 years old. Yeah, it's changing because of the environment we live in. We have more toxins, foods, unawareness. We're doing the same thing our moms did, our aunties did, and they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So that number is only just getting lower and lower. Yeah, unfortunately.
That's terrible.
I feel like I'm my friend Patrick, and I'm like, and don't use Johnson & Johnson baby powder. I'm like,
say that again for those in the back, okay?
Don't use Johnson & Johnson baby powder. Please stop today. One of my questions to you is, have you seen any studies or any links between this and Black women? Because I feel like a lot of the cases, I mean, maybe I don't know that many white women, but I hear that a lot of Black women are the majority. Like, I think you said earlier, like 90, I don't know, 80-90% of cases.
Yeah, up to 80% of women will get fibroids, but up to it's 60 to 70, well, a percent of that is women that melanated women. And then I don't know. So overall, this is common in melanated women. African diaspora is just more common in melanated women. And our white counterparts, at least the research I've done, show that when they do make changes, whether it be in their diet, holistic or whatever, they have more greater effects versus the melanated women. So yes, to answer your question, it is very common in women of color. And the research, I feel, is pretty outdated. And we need to start doing more testing on, things that are within our genetic makeup, because we don't know what has been tested and what they're using, right?
Right.
So to be able to, find out more information about this. But they did an autopsy. I was reading they did an autopsy, and they found, I think, 70% of women who didn't, they may have not had symptoms, but they all had some sort of fibroid lesion on their uterus.
Wow.
All of them. So they may not have symptoms. They've just been walking around, being okay, but they had some sort of fibroid lesion. So it just shows how common this is. And if we don't take a preventative approach and start recognizing some changes we got to do, it'll just grow. And yeah.
So there's two things I thought about when you were talking. One is we don't like to participate in any trials. That's because we're so scared, like, they're not gonna do no research on me. But that means we're not in a ton of studies. And so we don't have better education or medicine or whatever on us as a people. And also, me and one of my friends was joking, and we were like, they're trying to kill us. It has to be something in the food or something that's in something that we
In the
all eat
communities
or
that we're in.
share
Mhm.
that they don't want us to reproduce. And so there has to be something small and minor that only affects our bodies mostly. Got to figure out what it is. Probably shouldn't say it
Yeah,
on the podcast, but
yeah, that's true. I've been reading it's some sort of, sometimes it's a genetic mutation that's passed on. So these days, with epigenetics, having fibroids running your family does not always mean that you're going to end up with it. And that's what most of us believe, but that's not necessarily true. So we are past a loaded gun. We're past the gene, right? There's a genetic mutation and we're past the gene, but the environment, our thoughts load the gun. So if we repeat the generational patterns, yeah, we're more likely to get it. Your mom dealt with anxiety. You're dealing with anxiety. You're stressed out. You're overweight. You lack of sleep. All those factors that I said earlier, they start to again all together start to produce dysfunction. So that's why some women may, react differently to being emotionally torn and also not maybe doing any exercise, and they may end up with fibroids compared to the next woman. She ends up with fibroids because her mom had it. So different factors play in different roles depending on our unique being, how it portrays. So
Wow. It's a lot to think about. I'm gonna be thinking about this for the rest of the night. Like, just, oh man, I'm not sleeping. Oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I'm not eating this right. Oh, look, let me just go get tested, because knowledge is power. But then at the same time, it's almost like, do I just not want to know and
right.
instead just try to do the preventative stuff to keep it, smaller if it's there until it causes an issue? So I don't know which boat I'm in right now, but I'm probably just gonna go check.
yeah, that thing.
Because I do want to have kids. I'm older, and I do want to have kids, and I just want to know, is that going to be something that I might have to deal with? So
Yeah,
I might as
yeah,
well go check.
absolutely. Yeah, go check, and you being aware of it is going to go a long way versus not doing anything about it. But being aware and taking action, even if it's shaking or eating, that can go a long way versus not doing anything. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think we are done here. I think I've asked most of the questions that I was received by some listeners, and I think, Ebony, did you get all yours out?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we really do appreciate you bringing light to something that both of us were interested in, and I'm sure our listeners are interested in. It seems like we did have an episode on infertility and PCOS, and that was one of our more listened to episode. And so I think, because we have a lot of women listeners, that this one will also get some good traction, because it's a thing that they may have heard about but don't really know much about, and you talked about a lot. So you started them down the road to want to go educate themselves, and I think that's what's really, really important. And then you gave them a place to find you. And where is that again, where they can find you on Facebook and Instagram, so that they can reach out if they have questions?
Yes, absolutely. So www.fibroidqueen.com. Go on my website, check out the offerings that I do have, and also you can be a part of my email list and get some free recipes just to jumpstart your healing journey. As well as on Instagram is kind of where I live, at Fibroid Queen, and Facebook if you want to join my community. Definitely send me a friend request on Facebook, and can add you to that Womb Wellness community. So yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else, Ebony?
No, I want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing us information, for coming to the podcast, for telling us about your journey. It's been great.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for having me again.
You are so welcome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for listening to the Real Play podcast. If you want to reach out to us directly, you can reach me, Ciera, at Raven with Love. That's Raven with 2 N's, with love. And Ebony.
I am at Ebony, and I always do this each time, and I'm like, I'm trying to think of another letter, but at Ebony, at D as in David, and last name Johnson, all together. And you can also find us at the Real Play Podcast on Instagram and at the Real Play Podcast at gmail.com.
Yep. So any questions, shoot them over to us, and we will definitely reach out back to Phyllis, the fibroid queen, to send the questions and get those answers for you. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And again, thank you, Phyllis, for coming. And we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.